Good afternoon and welcome to another of Tim's Tech Talks here at Venom Motorsports Canada. So today our Tech Talk is going to be working with the X22R 250, and this video is going to be entitled Getting Started. So we're going to have a look at a few things here today about how to start your bike and getting ready for that first ride. Now this assumes you've already done all your PDI and you're pretty much positive that your bike is in a go sort of state and you're ready to ride. But before you go, there's a few things I'd like you to check before we actually go ahead and run through our startup procedures. The first is your tires. So I'd like you to spend a minute, please, and double check the pressure in your tires. The pressure should always be measured cold. That is before the tires actually been worked for the day. So you want to measure a cold pressure, and in these tires that's about 35 pounds per square inch gauge. So you would need, of course, to have a proper tire gauge that you're going to measure the pressure with, and you're going to remove this schrader valve cover that you see right down here. You remove the schrader valve cover and attach the air pressure gauge right there. It will give you a reading in both kilopascals or in pounds per square inch, and you need to have, again, about 35 pounds per square inch in this particular tire. If you look at any of the tires on any of our bikes on the sidewall, you'll see the pressure ratings for the tires. They're clearly laid out there for you. So again, you want to have a look at the cold maximum rated pressure for your tire on your bike. Having checked the tires, the next important thing to have a look at before that first critical start is the oil level. Now in this X22R, you can check the oil level again by having a look at what the level is on the dipstick. And you can do this on any of our bikes. You pull the dipstick up, have a look, and you'll note that the oil level is right at the very top of the hash marks. So this means that this bike is perfectly filled with lube oil level to the correct level before we start the engine. You always want to double check and make sure that your bike has a reasonable lube oil level. On this bike, with this sight glass, when the bike is completely filled with oil, and I'm going to pull the bike up a little bit straighter here so you get a better angle. If the bike is perfectly vertical, the lube oil level here is pretty much at the top of the sight glass. If you've overfilled, the sight glass will be 100% full, and you want to watch that because these engines don't do well if they are overfilled with lube oil. So you want to make sure that you're at the top mark of the hatch. Come down here, have a look at the sight glass. You'll be somewhere in the upper 7/8 area, and this indicates that the engine is 100% ready to go. Lube oil is fine. Our next concern then is going to be our fuel. As most of the engines in our bikes have compression ratios exceeding 10:1 and are air cooled, so all of our engines are air cooled, I always recommend that you use the highest level of octane that you can get. This could be 89, 91, or 93. And before you start the bike, ensure that you have at least half a tank of fuel. You want to make sure you've got lots of gasoline here to prepare you for your first start and, of course, your first ride. Once you know that your tire pressure is good, your oil is good, your gas in the tank is fine, the next thing that you need to be aware of in order to start the bike is where's the choke mechanism located, where's the ignition switch, and where's the kill switch. So the first thing you're going to do is to turn on the ignition. And once the ignition switch engages, you can see the system will reset itself. On some of the bikes, there'll be an indicator in terms of if you're in neutral or not, and where the neutral indicator is on this bike is right in here. So you'll actually see a little green light up that indicates neutral. So right now with the ignition switch on, the bike is indeed ready to start. But before we start it, we need to spend a minute and perform a couple of quick checks. The first check is, where's the kill switch? On this bike, the kill switch is here. And you'll notice that we have a C or a C with an X through it. If we push down right here, now we have killed the ignition circuit in the bike. The bike will never ever start. So we have to make sure that we are in the C position for the ignition to function. Sounds funny, but many people have this issue. Ensure that the kill switch is in the operational position, not the shut off the engine in an emergency position. So, kill switch is set, beautiful. The next thing then that we need to be concerned with is, well, what is this choke thing and where is it located? So the choke, as you can see, is lever operated right here. If the lever is all the way up, this means the bike is in a no choke position. And this is typically what you would set the bike for. Once it's warm, you've been driving the bike for a little while, you don't need the choke. Once the bike is being started, say at the beginning of the day, the bike is cold, you need to have full choke, have the choke lever all the way down. Once the choke or the bike starts to engage and is running for a little bit, you can move the choke lever back, and eventually when the bike is nice and warm, you can take the choke off completely. So again, choke all the way down when the bike is cold. The bike warms up, you can move the choke lever all the way back up. Other features that you need to be aware of. Left and right turn signal. That easy. On this bike here, dimmer switches for your headlights. On this side, four-way hazard. And of course, your horn. Right there. So now it looks like you're just about ready to go. The only other thing I'd like you to be aware of and to check before you go for a ride, adjust your mirrors so that you can safely see what's coming behind you over your shoulders. And now you're ready, of course, to start. Now, in starting the bike, a few things to keep in mind. The bike must be in neutral, and you can see that it clearly is here. The neutral indicator is showing for us. Or you can pull in the clutch. Pulling in the clutch also ensures that the bike is in neutral. What else do you need to do? Well, these bikes are all fitted with safety circuits so that you must have a brake system engaged, meaning you have to squeeze the right front brake or you can use the foot brake. The choice is yours. But in either condition, the brake circuit must be closed to prevent the bike from taking off, for example, if you happen to start up and pop the clutch. So in this case, always squeeze the brake. Now you're ready to go. When you're going for that first start, you're going to ensure that your choke is all the way down, squeezing the brake, then hitting the throttle. Now, when you go to start the bike, ensure your ignition's all the way up, and you should be good to go. Ignition's fine, squeeze the throttle, and we should be able to take off. Now, if you don't have the bike in neutral, double check, make sure you're in neutral, and you can see now that the bike is clearly in neutral. I no longer have to hold the clutch, and the bike, of course, can start. Choke's fully engaged, squeeze the right lever, and you'll notice that the bike takes off and starts right away. Now, once the engine gets just a little bit warm, you can indeed remove the choke because you don't need it. This engine has been running for a little bit, so I can take the choke off. If this engine was cold, I'd have to leave the choke on for a longer period of time. I've already had this engine running for a little bit, it's nice and warm, take the choke off. And as you can see, the engine starts right up. Now let's assume you're driving down the road, you pull over and you want to shut off your bike. You have a couple of options. You can hit the kill switch, or you can turn it off just using the ignition. Let's do it by hitting the kill switch. And before we hit the kill switch, I do want to point out one other thing. You'll notice right now on the speedometer that we're looking at about 1500 RPM. This is a very normal RPM idle for most bikes. So that's what you're shooting for. Now we're going to go ahead and hit the kill switch, and the bike shuts off immediately. Now, one other situation that I've seen a few times, people have a new bike, they're new drivers, the bike is warm, they come back to the bike, And for some reason they believe that they need choke. If the bike is warm, you don't have to choke it again. And if you do choke it, what will happen? There's a good chance that you may flood the bike when you're trying to start it, or you're going to have very poor performance. So again, most important, when the bike is warm, no choke please. What happens if you're doing some shopping, you shut the bike off, you come back, you try to start the bike, you roll it over again and again and again, and the kill switch is on. What's going to happen? Again, you're going to flood the bike because there'll be all kinds of fuel inside the bike, but no spark because you had the ignition kill on. So you're going to turn that off, and then this time when you try to start the bike, ensure that the choke is all the way off, and give the bike about half throttle. This will allow the bike to take in some extra combustion air and clear the cylinder. So it should start right up. And sadly for us, I think our battery's just about died on this particular bike. I haven't had it out for a run in a bit. Anyhow, I hope you found this very useful. If you hear this sound, you say, oh, I'm getting nothing. My bike's not making any noise whatsoever. It's not trying to roll over. This indicates that you have a low battery. And how are you going to cure that problem? Charge the battery up, and you can do this with any trickle charger, and you'll be fine and back on the road in no time. It's a 12-volt trickle charge. That's all you need. It doesn't have to be fancy. Or if you're really stuck, you can boost it with your car. And if you're stuck more than that, you can also do a compression start. So you have some options available. I hope you find this film very helpful. Enjoy the ride and have yourselves a great day, my friends. Take care. Bye-bye.